Hello, listeners and viewers. My name is Nate Leslie. Welcome back. On this show, we interview leaders doing important work in this challenging time, peeling back the curtain a little bit on what they're up to. Today, I am with Mark Holick, a longtime friend in my hockey network and a coach of the West Coast Hockey Prep Camp in the summer times and part of our Leslie Global Sports coaching team when he can make it. Mark's been almost 30 years employed in the game of hockey since his playing days were done. Most famous to me as beating me 14-1 with the help of Shane Cuss and Scott Gomez and a few others in the BCHL in way back in 1996. More well known to others as a longtime coach in the BCHL with Surrey and Vernon, and in the Western Hockey League with Kootenay and Prince George. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nate. Looking forward to it.
We want to jump in today with the new project that you have as the co-host of the Voice and the Coach podcast. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you got going on there?
Yeah, just like we were talking about off camera here, that we're sitting around one day pre-COVID, and we're just, Dan and I were talking. We've always kind of talked about maybe having some sort of opportunity like that, but one day, like I said, he just showed up on a weekend with his gear, and the first guest was myself, and he just we sat down and did a bit of a recording on my background and kind of the chronological path that I followed, and from that, it just, I think we're on up to 30 episodes now, and getting ready to record another one here tonight. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Well, on that note of recording and having a guest in the background there, I think you wanted me to make it very clear you're not in your office right now, and you are not a Boston Red Sox fan.
I'm not a Red Sox fan. This is my boss's office. I'm at work, and this is a nice, quiet, private place. And then, I'm a Blue Jays fan, and I'll follow those guys. But I mentioned earlier that I see the Red Sox signage in the background, so we wanted to make that clear right away.
He wanted to get his face in there then and get a little credit for being the Red Sox fan. I got it. And we should mention you're currently coaching U18 Prep at Yale Academy out in Abbotsford. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how things are going in this challenging time, being end of January 2021?
For us, we've been actually fortunate. We've been on the ice right since September, since school opened. The guidelines have changed, being on the ice, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, depending on via sport.
What is something that has pleasantly surprised you about the way this U18 group has handled this challenge?
They're self-motivated. I mean, these are elite athletes. We have a lot of high Western Hockey League picks and some guys that are, I think, college can be college bound as well, BCHL route, but they're very self-motivated. There isn't a whole lot that we have to do as a staff. When you're coming to an academy such as Yale, it's very well run. The schedule has jumped a bit with COVID because of the quarter system in the schools. So it's been a bit of a challenge for Billy, who you saw walking in the office here, and Brad, our hockey director, and trying to get everybody, all 4 teams scheduled, and classrooms and what have you. But it's been fairly smooth. The goalposts have moved a lot, but the adjustments made by us and our staff have been, it's relatively seamless, and it's been a real good experience. Like I said, we haven't been interrupted on ice at all.
Yeah.
I think, comparing it to minor hockey, where teams sometimes weren't practicing for an extended period. Like, we've been on the ice, like I said, every day, pretty much 5 days a week since September.
Yeah. When I look at it as a guy not directly involved in the academy programs, but lots of friends and colleagues working in it, one of the obvious benefits is your ability to practice a lot and not have those practices interrupted by games. There's a lot of other leagues in our country where we preach practice to game ratio, and then it doesn't happen due to scheduling. And so if you look at this year and take the biggest positives that you can out of all of that practice time that you've had, where have you seen the most development in the kids?
You know what? I mean, again, we've really emphasized skill development. So you can see, you know, maybe Johnny in September, maybe that release wasn't quite where it needed to be at that next level or be effective at the next level. And, you know, the quickness is there, the edge work is a little better, the balance, the strength. I mean, they're in the gym every day as well. I mean, you know, we basically have followed two different schedules. We're either 8:30 to 9:30 on the ice and then 9:45, 10:45 in the gym, or they go to school in the mornings and we'll be in the gym at noon and on the ice at 1:30 to 2:30. So those have kind of been our schedule A, schedule B when they change. But so they're getting their dry land and their training off ice as well. And our coaches upstairs, you know, led by Antonio Domingo, they've done a great job out there. And you can see the confidence, and, you know, the guys are stronger, you know, the flexibility, the balance. So noticeably now, even without games, I was thinking that driving in, what we could talk about a little bit too, Nate, is that I can see improvement in all players, but there has been some that have had considerably more improvement than others.
Well, one thing we've always admired about you is your relentless decision that kids in a program like yours need to play. And barring any really excessive behavior, attitude issues, kids are going to get the ice time. However, in this environment, we have removed that fear of failure, of the pressure to win. And yeah, speak to some of those kids who maybe in other programs, maybe under other coaches, maybe just in the environment, you know, would make that safe play every single time. And when you're focusing purely on skill development, they have a chance to try stuff. Really, have you seen that surfacing at all?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, you're right in that observation. I guess is maybe because we don't have games. There's no, you know, for example, practices aren't based on what just happened this weekend and who we're playing in the upcoming weekend. Practice is based on how we can develop better as players. And, you know, we have still done some team stuff. Like I haven't personally for a long time with our group. I think just the last 2 days, we've touched on some D-zone 5-on-5 play again. And that was brought on because some of our players came to me and said, hey man, we got to like try to play a little, compete and get together. And so, but again, with some certain guidelines that we have to follow, I got to kind of follow that as well. So, you know, we did a little bit of D-zone and a little bit of compete and some things where there's some races or the small area games where there's something on the line or what have you. So there's no doubt they're getting antsy, Nate. Like these kids want to play, and these are high performance athletes. And some guys are a step away from the Western League and probably good careers in the Western League and maybe further on. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but guys that have moved on from our program, Bowen Byron played his first game the other day in the National Hockey League, who was here a few years back. And, you know, Dylan Cousins is in Buffalo now. So these guys, potentially there's players on our team that maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, we're saying that about them. So these kids are self-motivated, but yet still anxious and real hungry to get going. So I feel I empathize with them in that regard, but just to try to keep them motivated, we're trying to do a little bit of different things. So
the last World Juniors here that just passed was the most chance I've had to see Bowen play, and every time he's on the ice, he just made a good play all the time, just subtle things, and it was very obvious. It was like a man among boys in that ability to execute. Would you agree with that assessment of him?
Yeah, I never had the chance to work with him here. He was here before my time, but just hearing, you know, guys talk about him here, he's very elite in that regard early, they felt. Now, to predict what he would be doing, I mean, I don't know if you could do that, but certainly a good player. He just led, you know, just the other day, he had the most minutes in the game the Avalanche. I mean, so he led the team in minutes on ice. So he's doing something right, and I think he's probably going to stick. Right now, he's technically taxi squad, but he's playing games as a call-up. But you know, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's probably going to finish the year in the NHL. The Giants, if the Western League fires up, they're not seeing him again. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just to see him play, and he's kind of a hybrid. He's on the blue line. He's down low in the offensive zone. He's taking a chance here. He can recover because he skates so well. He's rarely out of position. You know, just makes real good decisions, and you know,
that's how we used to describe Niedermeyer.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's close.
Yeah. Hey, let's finish where we started, Mark. A little bit more about your podcast. Where can people find it?
Anywhere that they find their podcast, you can search it anywhere. It's pretty much available all places. The Voice and the Coach, it's called, and just you know, the way I describe it, you know, without being professional, is just a couple schmoes just talking hockey or life or whatever pops to mind. Sometimes it stays on script, sometimes it goes off the rails. If you see our Ron Flockhart episode, it went off the rails pretty quick, but Dan had to do some good editing with that one, but it was fun, and that's what we're trying to do. Nothing too serious. Have a little fun, you know, maybe a beverage or two along the way, and just talk hockey and talk life in general.
It sounds like you're exploring the journeys of some people along in your network. Why don't you mention a couple of the guests that you've had that stand out for you?
Geez, we've had a kind of a different, you know, it's not always hockey. We've had Dan Schulman, voice of the Jays, on. You know, I think our second guest was Scotty Gomez, who I've got a relationship with from our days in South Surrey. We've had Scott Niedermeyer. You know, so just different players that Dan or I know. And, you know, a couple guys from our Prince George days. Jeff Chenault, the GM in Calgary, was my GM in Kootenay, so we had a great interview with him and talked about his career and his family's involvement, specifically his father Ed, and, you know, his brother involved in Carolina as an assistant coach. So just different things, and like I said, it takes us where it takes us.
You know, there's a lot of our listeners are parents of a lot of our athletes that we've been training, and as I listen to you talk about your connections in your network with over 30 years as a coach and player before that, it's a message for the athletes that I'm hearing, is the importance of that network, and you never know where it's going to resurface. Do you have any final words about your days in the game and the importance of the network, if it's parents and athletes listening to this interview with you and I?
It's funny when you mentioned earlier that, you know, I've been coaching for as long as I have, and you're saying there's never been a gap, or you asked if there's ever been a gap in the year that I've been a plumber, an electrician, or whatever, and it just made me sit back and go, Jesus, I've been doing this every day basically for 30 years in some way, shape, or form. So that kind of you know, set me back a little bit there. But it really had, you know, it hasn't really been work, so to speak. I mean, there's been pressure, and when you're involved in the Western Hockey League and you're paid to win, and you /develop, and then in the American League, when I had an opportunity there with Anaheim, it was, you know, the pressure and put on yourself, number one, and then, you know, there could be external factors as well. But it's been great. Wouldn't change a thing. And, you know, I'm excited with the position here at Yale and the kids and being part of more so development than anything else. I think it's been awesome.
Right on, Mark. Well, the co-host of the Voice and the Coach podcast, the head coach of Yale Academy U18 Prep team, friend of Prep Camp and Leslie Global Sports, 30 years in the game as a professional coach. If your kids on your team knew that, they would assume you would look a lot older. Thanks for your time, Mark, and we'll see you on the ice soon.
Hey, thanks a lot, buddy. We'll see you this summer for sure.